can't imagine there is a world in which he woke up in the morning the day that Parasite was released and he said, well, it's just going to crush every single movie in the world and win every single award. He was like, you know what? If we can hit a single or a double with Parasite and people go and watch it, that'd be great. And I think there was a change in the audience base, and people were watching foreign language movies because honestly, most of the interesting most of the interesting films that were being made, and still today, unfortunately, were being made outside of the United States, and the American independent film world used to be, the center of every cinema in France. In Europe, it was the center of it was a cultural center of how a movie should be made. That had changed, right? And he took advantage of that change in such a brilliant and non-manipulative and non-onerous way. But he brought to the people what they wanted to watch, but they didn't know that they wanted to watch it yet. And some of them work, some of them work better, but he's certainly the best picker.
Hello, welcome. We are in our Deadline Zurich Summit studio. I'm joined today by CAA Sarah Schweitzman, Roeg Sutherland, and this year's game changer,
Yes.
Mr. Tom Quinn. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. How's it all going?
We're amazing.
Wunderbar.
Great. Tom, you're about to get this big award in moments, basically. Game changer is a pretty amazing kind of title to have from this festival. It's a big award. The company's not even going 10 years, and you've achieved so much since 2017. How are you feeling about this?
A little overwhelmed, to be honest. It's and I don't know that we're exactly changing the game, but I think we're.
Stop it! You actually are.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I think we've been blessed with extraordinary cinema, and our commitment to supporting auteurs all over the world, regardless of genre, country of origin, has been a mantra that's served us really well right out of the gate. And so our slate of films this year coming into the fall, honestly, is an embarrassment of riches. The Palme d'Or winner, It Was Just an Accident by Jafar Panahi, Sentimental Value by Joachim Trier, No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook, Surat by Oliver Lax, and Secret Agent by Kleber Mendonça-Filho. I mean, it's all of these movies for me represent such an extraordinary power of what cinema can do, the time that we're living in, and so I honestly 9 years ago could not have imagined that we'd be in this position.
It's incredible. And it's such a breadth of films, as you say, very international slate. 6 Palme d'Ors, as you mentioned. I mean, I don't want to totally put you on the spot with this, but what are some highlights that you would say if you're kind of casting your mind back and since you started Neon? What are the big moments that stand out for you?
Well, we are approaching our 9th year, but the first Palme d'Or was director Bong's Parasite, and the idea, the sort of engine around with which I thought Neon would be a great home for auteurs like director Bong, was 15 years in the making. I met him for his third film, The Host, which we bought in 2006, and subsequently started a 15-year relationship with him. Went back and bought Memories of Murder, bought his first film, Barking Dogs Never Bite, did Mother, then later at another company at Radius, wound up doing Snowpiercer. So, Neon is only 9 years old. There's 30 years of history here that I think have sort of wound up creating a journey towards what is, I hope, a very safe harbor for incredible works of cinema.
Mm-hmm. Sarah and Roeg, how would you, in your own words, how would you say that, I mean, the U.S. indie sector would feel very different, the distribution sector would feel very, very different without Neon. How do you feel Tom and Neon has sort of impacted the U.S. market?
I mean, I think Tom was really smart in that he knew exactly where there were holes in the marketplace, and and there was an appetite to go and watch those movies. We didn't know that there may be an appetite for them to go and watch those movies theatrically, but I mean, certainly he underplays the Snowpiercer story is one where no one would go and touch the movie, and he said, I'm going to go and turn this into a gigantic star. And I think you started with streaming, and then ultimately the movie ended up theatrically and being wide and being a gigantic success. So he'd done it in 3 companies before. He knew what he was doing. And what I think he found was an audience that was open to embracing the kind of filmmakers that he wanted to bring to the United States, because it takes 2, right? It takes an audience and it takes a distributor that goes and finds that audience. But without him, well, we'd have to go and build another distribution company. But he filled a need, and he continues to fill the need, and he continues to build off of filling a need. And what's great about him, and it's so rare, is that he's got a loyalty of the filmmakers. So that means that the experience that they go through with him is one that is a good one. He doesn't overpromise, and he definitely over-delivers on everything. And everybody, everyone that we represent, everyone wants to work with him, because he may know how to release a Korean movie, he can release a French movie, but then he releases a horror movie that goes on to make hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's not just about, there's a complete flexibility as to where his success is. He's not tied to foreign language. He's not tied to documentaries. He's not tied to horror movies. He would love to go and release an action movie. It's just it's about who he is and what his heart is, and that lives within his company, and everybody together kind of are on the same mission of bringing amazing content to a hungry audience that is not getting that delivered at other distribution companies.
I think the only thing that I would say that you didn't already say is just that when I speak to Tom and his team, I'm always relieved that they are still willing to be so daring and support the filmmakers that they genuinely love and are obsessed with. And I think that that's a testament to why they're so great at picking movies, because it's the coup de foudre, it's the falling in love, and it's that magic and the reason for why we all do it. And I think that it's really hard in this marketplace for other distributors to stand up for what they believe in, because there's a lot of other things that are at play right now more than ever. And Tom is somebody that always stands up for what he believes in, and I think it's really inspiring.
You know what, you're right, and that's actually he never ever plays scared. And most distributors now, you see, are always hedging their bets. They're always playing scared. They don't really know how to go into the market. They're nervous about it. Blah, blah, blah. He never plays scared. If he believes in something, he throws himself at it. And whether it works or it doesn't work, he knows that at the end of the day, he did everything he possibly could to make sure that movie was a success.
It's very nice.
By the way, we're not this nice on the phone. But in front of cameras, what can we do?
Well, Sarah said something that I want to say, the team at Neon, all the principals have been there since inception, and we all buy into the same thing. It's not cynical. It's this pure, unadulterated passion for cinema. And it is something that at our core, I think, drives the whole team, drives the mantra, drives the brand, drives our work with our filmmakers. And, I'm incredibly lucky to have this team, which, whether it's Christina Zisa, head of publicity and awards, or Christian Parks, our CMO, head of marketing, or Alyssa Fedoroff, our head of distribution, or Jeff Deutschman, our head of acquisitions, production, and development. I mean, this is a core group of diehard cinephiles, and they get to express that passion daily. So together, very lucky to be where we are.
We feel like we're together with him, too. He just doesn't want to name us.
Well, and I've never given Roeg online. I've given you public credit, but I think it's worth noting that, without Roeg's very crucial work in the early stages before we launched, Neon would not be what it is today. It was very hard to raise the money for something that is, anti-algorithm inside of the streaming economy that somehow is purely 100% dedicated to the power of cinema. And so I spent a year and a half unable to raise the money for Neon, which I thought was a great business plan and a great idea. But Roeg was the individual who found our first investor. And without Roeg, I don't know that we would be here.
You would definitely have figured out a way to be here. I appreciate that, but that's very kind of you. But you would definitely have found a way. But we got lucky. If we're going to talk about the business and forget just your company, I think the way that you've worked and the way we've worked together, and I'm sure the way you've worked with other agencies, it's very much about helping each other. And I'm not saying that you have to go and buy a movie because I really need help, but it's about making sure that the ecosystem survives. That ultimately that you're working with people that are not taking advantage of you, because there are a lot of people that want to take advantage of you, and our job in some ways to make sure that everything is that you're entering into situations fairly, so that if it doesn't work for some reason, you're not losing your hat over it, and that we can continue to grow. Because if you can't grow, we don't have a business. No one has a business. We only exist. We only have businesses because we work together and make sure that we're taken care of at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And we've had tough movies, and we've had easy movies, but he's always been there. And I can't say that about many people in this business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fun.
Yeah, it has to be fun.
I know we have to wrap up soon because you've got to go do your chat, but I have one more question for all of you in terms of earlier, Roeg, you mentioned, if it hadn't worked, you would have built another business, you would have built another distribution business. You guys are helping build some other distribution businesses at the moment. There are more players coming into the U.S.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why is this important for the ecosystem? One, and why does these companies need to be there? And Tom, what do you think, having more competitors in the marketplace, why is that good for your business?
It's one that they're not competitors, so it's I wouldn't see it that way. What we're trying to do, and it's not, not every movie deserves distribution, but certainly a lot more movies deserve distributions that are not getting it in the United States right now. I think that the studio system is frayed, would be a right way of putting it. It's difficult, and we see a responsibility to our clients that we go and spend days, months, years, sometimes putting together these movies, that they end up finding a home, so that audiences and not critics and not anybody else get to decide whether their movie is good or their movie is not good. And we'll continue to build these distribution companies. I'm talking to Tom about he needs to build another distribution company within his distribution company, because Tom has the bandwidth to release. The fact that he's the bandwidth to release 6 movies in this fall, 6-8 movies.
It's more.
Fall, yeah,
it's more than that, but
it's a lot. But he should have a label under it that filmmakers can bring their movies to, that may not sit in the Oscar race or anything like that. But we have to find platforms, and we have to find theatrical distributors that put these movies out there. Movies have been doing a much better job at being able to target their audiences. We're going to see, I think Megan Colligan is a very, very smart person, and we'll see what she's able to build out. As Tom and I know, the first year of a distribution company is a challenging one. I mean, we'll talk about it later. It's like, you don't have a banking facility at that point in time. You don't have a pay one window at that point in time. You're putting all these things together. But there's probably room for, you'll see by the beginning of next year, there'll be 4 new distribution companies. And for us as an agency, we think it's a responsibility to the business to make sure that there's a healthy ecosystem. Not that it brings competition to Tom Quinn, because the movies that Tom Quinn wants to get, Tom Quinn's going to get them. But we need to find homes for everyone, and everyone needs to have an opportunity to be seen. Yeah. And I think, I'm not going to talk about politics.
Do you want to add anything, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that I would add is that there's, we brought 27 movies to Toronto International Film Festival. There's a lot of really great movies out there, and it speaks to your point that some of them are just, not initially getting picked up by some of the partners that seem like are the most exciting partners, and there's room out there to have other people out there that are taking a stand and as excited as Tom Quinn and his team are to take on movies that are not necessarily obvious. There's a lot of household name filmmakers that made movies this year that, are in the process of clinching deals with great distributors, but it will be a faster and a more exciting process when we have other partners that are as solid as Tom.
And when she's talking about these films, Tom would love to pick up 2 of these films. I mean, I can think of 2 of those, three of the films he'd pick up. He's one person.
Yeah.
He's one company, and I don't think we will never be able to replicate Tom Quinn. The only thing that will ever happen with Tom Quinn is we can convince him to do something with Decal so that it's
Which Decal is our home entertainment unit, which
course,
we
yeah.
serve the independent community there for other distributors, which, I think there's a real connective tissue amongst all distributors. I know we're all competitors, but the reality is the number one reason why people still go see movies is the trailer they saw on a competitor's film and or one of your own films. And so all boats rise in the collective success of what happens with all of these companies. And, I love competition. We do something that's very similar to who we are. It overlaps every now and then with what some of the other companies do. But I think it's hard to replicate. And, at some point, we've been competing with the studios. We've been competing with, these billion-dollar juggernaut streamers. And I think you have to be a great operator. There has to be a quality of service, and you have to have a clear vision for what it is you stand for, what you want to do. Not every company has to be, but for us, that's who we are. And so I think there's plenty of room.
It's in the same way that we represent financiers, and people always ask us, well, there must be overlap. It must be competing against each other. Sometimes they want the same movie, and usually we figure out a way for them to partner up with each other. But for the most part, what a filmmaker what a financier wants is different from what every other financier wants. Mm-hmm. And I will say that for filmmakers, a filmmaker, there may be an offer from a streamer on the movie, and what they want to do is get as much of an MG as possible, MG being the minimum guarantee, and they care less about the theatrical release, but more about reaching out to as wide an audience as possible on that platform. Great, that there's room for them to go and do that. If you want the theatrical experience and you want to be able to stay in theaters for 45 days and go back to what movie watching is really about, then you've got Tom Quinn. And it's apples and oranges. It's optionality that is offered to the filmmaker, and ultimately the filmmaker makes a decision, as long as it's fiscally responsible, as to what the destiny of their movie is.
And the other part is, we've been financing, developing, and producing our own films in the last 3 years. And that's opened up a whole new lane for us that, we couldn't buy as completed films on the open market, whether it's genres like horror. And so, we're coming up on our 3rd partnership with Osgood Perkins, Keeper, releasing this fall. And as a filmmaker who's made 3 movies in less than 18 months, and his first 2 films, Longlegs and Monkey, having grossed over 200...
We sold that one to you, though.
That's right. Having grossed over $200 million worldwide, some of these lines do blur, but for us, it's the same muscle. That's an auteur that has a clear point of view and is dealing with some pretty cool, fucked up issues in all of his movies. And so some people would say, well, that's more commercial for you. And I'm like, no, this sits in the exact same lane as everything else that we're doing.
Yeah.
I love his way of seeing that.
Well,
Definitely.
The universality is that we're all dealing with really fucked up issues, and so that's part of why you're reaching such a wide audience.
It's great. I'm so happy that
Oh
you
my
cursed
gosh,
on
that is
on air.
You did too.
No, it's okay, but your mother's going to watch
That
this and
is
talk to you about
the
it.
perfect note to end
Are we
this
not
on.
allowed to curse online?
You can.
Has
you
that
can.
changed
You
in the
can.
last week?
Guys, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but you've got to go downstairs
Yeah,
and
we
talk to
do.
a bigger
Let's do
audience.
it.
So thanks
Oh
so
my
much
God,
for
we
stopping
really
by
do.
the
We really do.
studio.
We really
Thank you,
do.
guys.